How do stop losses work on Kraken? Let's say I have a birthday party on Wednesday night, but an important meeting Thursday morning. So Sensible Me pre-books a taxi for 10 p.m. with alerts. Voila! I won't be getting carried away and staying out till 2. That's stop loss orders on Kraken, an easy way to plan ahead. Go to Kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Interactive Inc., PWI, DBA Kraken. View PWI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
Allstate wants to remind fans that mayhem is everywhere. Like when your fantasy league meets up at your house. Everything's great until the hot plate gets too hot for the tablecloth. Now your kitchen's up in smoke. And if you don't have the right home insurance coverage, the cost to fix this is anything but a fantasy. So switch to Allstate, save money, and get protected from mayhem like this. Not available in every state based on coverage selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Savings vary.
Greatness hurts. It's 10,000 hours of hard work, sweat, and setbacks. The aches, the stumbles, the falls. Tylenol provides pain relief for the champion in us all. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand of pain relief and fever reduction. This summer, when greatness hurts, Tylenol will be there with care to help you keep chasing it. That's Tylenol. That's care without limits. Visit Tylenol.com/greatness-hurts to learn more. Use as directed.
Valvoline and Advanced Auto Parts have teamed up this summer to make sure that you're getting the ultimate protection. How? Valvoline full synthetic motor oils are specially engineered to provide 24 times stronger protection against engine-killing contaminants than the leading full synthetic. If you want to maximize the life of your engine, trust the ultimate protection. Trust Valvoline. Get 5 quarts of Valvoline full synthetic motor oil for only $32.99 at your local Advanced Auto Parts store today.
And welcome back to the Skating Penguin Network, everyone. It is finally September. Today is September 3rd, 2024. It is a Tuesday this week we're recording on. We had to push our first episode of the week back a day, but we are back here for another mailbag section. But before we dive in, across the mic, as always, is Snail out in Seattle. And I don't know about you, Snail, but the weather here in Western Pennsylvania is absolutely splendid. The last 2 days, it definitely feels like fall here. So what's it like out there?
Well, what are we talking out there? How splendid are we talking?
We're talking high 60s, no humidity, sunshine, just a few passing clouds. But other than that, just a little breeze going, chilly at night, just absolutely beautiful.
Oh, mama, that's the stuff right there. Yeah, out here, we got, it's getting there. Today's a little muggy, but, I seen after, the coming Thursday, I think that's summer's last hurrah. I think it's going to be about 84 that day.
Okay.
But then after that day, it drops down to high 70s. And then I'm not even kidding you, it's 69 as far as the eye can see as a high.
Nice.
Yeah, that mugginess is a good sign because I think it's like moisture. It's going to be it's not typical, or it's not super untypical for it to be untypical. Is that even a word? It's not very typical for it to be super dry at this time of year because rains are coming. It's Seattle, the Pacific Northwest, the ocean's doing its thing. So I'll be honest with you, Robbie, it's September 3rd today. I am so juiced on where we're at. We've got football. NFL season starts this weekend. I'm sure you're well aware of that.
Yep.
I recently restarted season mode in NHL. Chell. I'm optimistic. I curated my team to how I would do it if I was in Dubas's shoes. I'm so juiced on hockey. I got a brand new Penguins hat for the season. I actually threw away the last couple of years, the old ones. In case they were carrying any extra negative juju. Nice Mitchell and Ness snapback, kind of a off-white cream color, black brim with the Skating Penguin logo there, and I'm ready, man. I'm so ready that I've almost come around to Jari. I'm like, maybe Jari will have a good year. Maybe
I feel like everybody was in that boat last year, so I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. But hey, you never know, I guess.
So it's so funny what an off season does. You get enough distance between the pain that you went through, and you're like, maybe Jari's top 3 in Vezina this year. Maybe he turns it around. You never know. Maybe this is going to be maybe they sneak in. Maybe they make a run. It's like all of that just hogwash of last year has just evaporated, and I'm ready, dude. I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely that time again. Training camp, maybe 2.5 weeks away. Um, yeah, it's just a lot of excitement right now. You had the McGroarty trade that we talked about, kind of got the juices flowing again toward the end of August, and now we're into finally September. The calendar's flipped. It feels like fall. It feels like hockey. It feels like football. It feels like the best time of year, and everything kind of gets going at this point. If you're a sports fan, this is one of the best times of year because you have baseball playoffs starting, NBA starting, college football in the NFL, hockey. Yeah, even niche sports are big are gaining steam this time of year. So all in all, a very good time to be a sports fan.
Best time to be a sports fan. So, how excited are you for Steelers kickoff? Is there excitement over there in the Berg for a Steelers season?
There's always excitement for Steelers football, regardless of expectations. So yeah, there's always excitement because the Steelers run the city. Um, the Steelers run. I mean, they run like most of the even viewing area. It's not just the city of Pittsburgh. Everybody gets excited for it, whether or not um, they have high hopes or not. It's great. We love football. We love sports. The Penguins are kicking up again, so it's.
Are the Pirates out of contention?
Yeah, pretty much. Not officially eliminated, but they're pretty much.
They're cooked.
Yeah, they're cooked. They only have like 25-ish games left between now and the end of the year. So
okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I you can tell that there's excitement in our voices. The gleam in our eye is coming back after a long, hot summer of no sports in the doldrums, coming off of a sour taste in our mouths from the Penguin season. God, so let's pivot over here and let's answer some of these questions from our faithful viewers or our faithful listeners.
Yeah.
This first question,
we have a whole bunch of stuff to cover first.
Oh yeah, we should cover it. Let's get into the news.
Yeah,
a lot of news.
So we're going to start this episode. I mean, we started off on a high note, so we're going to sink back down, unfortunately, a little bit now with the news of the passing of Columbus Blue Jackets forward Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew on Thursday night out in New Jersey. He was in town, his hometown area. He's from New Jersey for his younger sister's wedding. And him and his brother were struck by a vehicle while riding bikes on the side of the road. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. The news was pretty much confirmed on Friday morning by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Were the first to make the announcement. And it's something that I haven't really wrapped my head around yet because Johnny Gaudreau was only just turned 31 years old, has 2 young kids, a wife. Matthew has a young wife and was expecting their first child. And my initial reaction was I don't really believe it. But then obviously it became real. Everybody all the teams were coming out with statements. There was memorials up at the Saddle Dome in Calgary where Johnny Gaudreau played most of his career to this point. Memorials outside of Nationwide Arena in Columbus. And Snail, I mean, there's not really words you can use to put anything like this in context. It is simply a tragedy. Johnny Gaudreau was an immensely talented hockey player, kind of took the script of what an undersized player does in the NHL and ripped it up. An extremely gifted player, a great passer, and just there's not really the hockey side of this is minor compared to the human side of this, and I still can't really form the words to describe how much of a tragedy this is to lose Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau in this manner at this time. It's just unbelievably tragic.
Yeah, of course. You take the hockey element out of it and what he meant to hockey and hockey fans and his teammates and coaches and trainers, everyone's lives that he touched through the hockey world, like you said, is the smallest part of it. At the base of this all, this is a young man, a young father, an older brother, whose life was very carelessly and senselessly taken from him alongside of his younger brother. Again, just hockey stuff aside, it's just two young fathers, two young, still young sons that had their life taken away far too early in a very brutal and tragic way. The fact that, the sister's wedding was the next day just adds so much. They were there together as a family to come together as a family again. And the next day, two very important pieces of that family are no longer with them. So, super tragic. I believe it's a suspected drunk driving incident, which just compounds on top of it the carelessness that this person had, and I'd be saying the same thing if it was, Joe Schmo down the street. You know what I mean? It just feels so heavy because we know him because of what we cover. We love hockey. He's such a big part of hockey. I don't remember if I was with you guys or not, or if you guys covered it when he signed, and if it was one of the biggest moves. It was probably the biggest move of that year when he signed with Columbus. He was a 100-point player, like you said. Just he really pushed the whole undersized player thing to the side, and he was just dominant for so long. He won the Hobey Baker. His accolades speak for itself, but at the end of it all, two lives cut short when it really didn't need to be, and it's infuriating. This kind of stuff, it's going to be there's going to be some. This person that the drunk driver, the driver of the incident, he's going to be in a lot of trouble, man. And this is where you see the justice system and all of that. That's going to be covered heavily. So I'm sure this is probably not the last time we'll be talking about this. It's just a mess and a shit show. But what's really important is that we just kind of touch on, I think, the fact that two young men were tragically taken. And do you see the quote from Lanny McDonald?
Yeah, the quote from I saw a lot of good quotes actually.
I did too.
Lanny McDonald, obviously being a Flames legend, got to know Johnny while he was up in Calgary. Did you see the Yager tribute?
I did see the Yager tribute.
Yeah,
it's actually funny. I kind of forgot for a second that Yager was even in Calgary. He's just traversed North America so much. But phenomenal tribute by Yager. Two greats connecting on goals. It's Lanny's quote was something to the effect of, go easy up on the legends up there in Heaven's hockey rink, because you're getting there a little bit earlier than you should. And it's touching. Lanny's such a legend, such a great guy. So many great and touching quotes from everybody. It was cool to just see the hockey community come together. I did see also that a bunch of players, including Jonathan Quick and former Penguin Jeff Carter, came together, and they raised a tremendous amount of money very quickly for I believe it was Johnny's brother Matthew, for a fundraiser to help her out, which it's just cool to see. They weren't ever teammates. It doesn't matter. It's just the hockey community, hockey family mourning and wanting to come together and do what they can to assist in this just time of tragedy. So,
and Brian included in our mailbag, it wasn't really a question, it was more of a statement. He said that we got the tragic news of the senseless death of the Gaudreau brothers, and Brian said this one really hit him, not only because he was a huge fan, not because he was a huge fan of either of them, but because both of their children have to now grow up without their dad. It's something that could happen to Brian, is saying him on a daily basis. Brian does, he is a mail carrier. He is on his feet, walking in, I'm assuming, high traffic areas where you don't know, where anybody could just not be paying attention, or in this case, a drunk driver, you just don't know, could strike him and potentially take his life. And knowing that his daughter had to grow up without him breaks his heart. I hope the family finds peace during this difficult time. And the Penguin connection in all this is Kevin Hayes, who played hockey with the Gaudreau brothers at Boston College, And if you remember a few years ago, Kevin lost his brother Jimmy Hayes, who was another Boston College guy. And
Former
Brian
Penguin too.
Yeah,
For a brief
stint. Hunter Hodes and Pat Damp on their podcast, pretty much their plan was that on opening night when they announced Kevin Hayes and on team introductions, just make sure that he is openly embraced by the fans, welcome here, because he's certainly going to need it with everything that he's been through in the past few days and the past few years as well. I can't imagine what he is going through these past, just having to relive this nightmare all over again. And you mentioned the hockey world coming together for this moment, and there was a GoFundMe for the wife of Matthew Gaudreau. They were expecting their first child, and they are expecting their first child in December. The GoFundMe was set up with an original goal. I have it open here of $30,000. As of right now, it stands at over $550,000.
Wow.
And I was when this was originally out there, I kind of went through some of the names of the donors and names that popped up. Panarin, Matt Duchene, Keith Yandel, Jared Spurgeon, Konechny, but also on this list were Stamkos was on this list. A bunch of I believe Patrick Laine was on this list, former teammate. Just a bunch of names of just hockey names that anybody would know that were donating to this GoFundMe to help out Matthew's wife. And it really just shows you the hockey community coming together during this time, this incredibly difficult time, to lift up the wife of Matthew and the whole entire Gaudreau family as a whole. Matthew Tkachuk had a great tribute as well. They were teammates in Calgary. It's hard. It's unnecessary, and it's unfortunate. And I hope that the family can find peace at some point. Obviously, it won't be immediate. I know that they did postpone the wedding. They obviously couldn't go through with that. That would have been almost impossible. But hopefully at some point down the line, they can find peace and come together as a family and still celebrate Johnny's sister and her fiance and honor Johnny and Matthew at the same time. So
rest in peace to Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. It's incredibly tragic. I was actually talking with my buddy about it a little bit, and Robbie, it's so weird. Like, obviously, I mean, have you ever seen Johnny Hockey in person play it?
I did when he was with Calgary.
Okay, so you did. I haven't, but I was thinking it's like he's this character that, like, you know, is a real person, and you see him on TV all the time. It's just the hardest part for me in my brain wrapping around the fact that he's gone is the fact that you only see him on TV. Like, you know, I don't watch the game. I only watch games of his probably unless there's, you know, unless you're just skimming channels or if they're playing the Penguins or the Kraken or something like that. So it's just been so weird to try to think that this character, this guy, this character that you essentially see in a uniform on TV, who's actually a real person with real family and real friends. And, it's just weird to think that he's gone, but yeah, man, it's tough to wrap your head around. It's going to be this season won't be the same without Johnny Gaudreau in the NHL. So, with that, you know, I think it's probably safe to say we can move on from the topic. Yeah. I was thinking maybe I don't know how much ripple that our Twitter will create in the grand scheme of things, but maybe repost the GoFundMe. Yeah. Just as a, every little thing helps, and we're a drop in the bucket compared to the traction it's already gotten, but just out of support, why don't maybe after this we'll throw it up on the Twitter or something.
I'll just do it right now while we move on to the next thing here. I can do it real quick, but so
that sounds good.
We will move on from the sad part of our show. As we said, peace to the Gaudreau family during this time. Our thoughts are with you. So moving on, we do have one more note of news before we get into the mailbag.
Yeah,
and
someone got paid.
Someone got paid big money, and that person is Leon Draisaitl. An 8-year contract, an average annual value of $14 million. He is signed. The contract actually doesn't even begin until 2025, so he has a year on his old deal, so he's actually there for 9 more years. And yeah, so that's one piece of business that is done in Edmonton, a huge piece. Now the question is, one, good for Leon getting that bank. Definitely deserves it. Likely a future Hall of Famer, no question about that. So now the question goes to, how much is Connor McDavid going to get paid?
That's a good question, because it's funny with all these contracts. It just seems that like they just leapfrog each other by like $1.5 million or so. So maybe McDavid can't re-sign now. Dubas is going to have to kick tires.
My thought is they only made this deal signed if they knew Connor McDavid was going to resign.
That's the consensus.
Again, it would have been very hard to watch Draisaitl walk, but there's no way, unless he doesn't want to re-sign in Edmonton, that they're just going to let McDavid go. So,
I mean, are we with the salary cap, and if McDavid only gets better, McDavid cannot sign until next summer. So like, there's no it's not going to fall back. Like, okay, this is done. Let's just get the McDavid. He can't sign until next summer. So there's still some time there. But my feeling is 16.
What's that?
16 mil.
It has to be above 14. As good as Draisaitl is, he's not as good as McDavid. I'd have to say it's 14. And at that point, you're going to have, if it's just those two guys, again, we know the cap will climb, but that's $30 million in two guys.
Yeah.
And Evan Bouchard is going to need an extension at some point. He's not going to be cheap as number one defenseman.
What do you think? He's going to command at least 8. I think it starts at 8 with a guy like Bouchard.
I think at least $8 million. I think that's what you walk up to him and start with, and I think it climbs from there. I think it'll be upwards of 9, assuming that he continues playing like
sure, yeah.
But yeah, and that you're gonna have to shed salary at some point.
That Darnell Nurse is glaring right now with his 9.25 or whatever he's making.
And if Nurse was good, that 9.25, and I'm not trying to be mean.
No, I know, it's just funny. I feel like that's just what everyone tries to not say. They're like, well, Darnell Nurse you're paying your third pair defenseman 9. Yeah, if he was better, it wouldn't be such an albatross of a contract.
Absolutely, yeah. If he was
Chris Pronger,
yes, it's a completely different story. Then, unfortunately, he's not.
Not even close.
And that's nothing against him at all. He's just not worth that money. Sorry.
Nope, he's not. So that'll be interesting to see. Dude, is it Stan Bowman? That's the GM there now? It is, right?
Yes.
What's his dad's name?
Scotty.
Okay, so yeah, Stan. Stan's had kind of an interesting first couple months on the job with the offer sheets and the trading CC to make room, and then they end up not signing either Broberg or Holloway, and then forking over. Draisaitl probably just waltzed into his office and was like, "What's it like? Get the checkbook out."
Yeah, I mean, that is it's so much money, and
it is.
I can't you have to pay him. It's either you pay him or you're going all in this year. And I'm meaning you're emptying the entire bank to get the best possible roster. And still then, there's no guarantee. So, yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in Oilers land. But, I think that their hands are kind of tied, because when you have the best hockey player on the planet right now in McDavid, his best buddy and one of the other top 5 players in the world is contracts up. If you don't give Draisaitl the money, what are you telling your superstar? It's almost, I feel like you lose Draisaitl, you lose McDavid down the road.
completely fair assessment, I believe.
I mean, I don't know if that's true. Who knows where McDavid's heart's really at? But you take away, his Evgeny Malkin to, it's like, and your team sucks. You just take any, why would he stick around? So their hands are kind of tied, and the salaries are only getting a little bit bigger. So it'll be interesting to see how they juggle this. They're lucky they got a bunch of guys that are on like kind of value contracts because everyone wants to get back to that cup. They got all these depth pieces: Corey Perry, Connor Brown. They made that trade with McLeod for that Matthew. I think his name's Matthew Savoy, pretty highly touted prospect that they all of a sudden came up upon. That's an entry level contract. You need those types of guys. So that's interesting spot for them to be in. And there's going to be a ripple effect from this Draisaitl signing.
Absolutely. Agreed.
I think that's the last note we had as far as hockey news to sort of cover.
Yeah. We can get into questions now. So, I just see here the Calgary Flames have signed Tyson Barrie to a professional tryout. That's interesting. Surprised that Tyson Barrie's not a little bit more sought after puck moving right shot D-man. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of at the end though, so it doesn't. I mean, he could very well work his way to a full. It wouldn't surprise me if he works his way to a full contract. But yeah, I don't know. Barry kind of fell off precipitously. He was really good for a good period, and then he kind of just, I don't know, his injuries are just.
Well, Cale Makar showed up.
That's true. That's fair. Yeah.
All right. Question number 1 from Tony Gale, and it's actually more of a. No, he does have a question. He visited the U.S. over the summer. Nice to see what you've done with the place since we left, with a little cheeky British flag there. Why are all your banknotes the same size? In the UK, the smallest amount on a note is £5, and it's the smallest in physical size. The 50-pound is the largest amount and largest in physical size. I just imagine like one of those, like they carry around those like massive like grocery store check type things,
Yeah.
Or not like the contest checks you get.
Yeah.
You got to fold it 6 times to get it into your wallet.
I want to stress something to Tony very carefully. you did not leave. We kicked you out. You did not just voluntarily leave the colonies. We told you to GTFO. And that's why you're no longer here.
Were they ran off with muskets?
I mean, kind of. I mean, it probably wasn't as dramatic as that. I mean, at the end of the war, they kind of just had to peace out. And I mean, we kind of took over and claimed it.
So
America.
So like, it's been a long time since I've done any sort of like U.S. history. Like, it's been a long time since high school and junior high and when we learned this stuff. But did the British actually they sailed across the ocean to bully us back into what exactly? Like, you need to listen to us, essentially?
Well, I mean, they tried to bully us back into being a colony in 1812 after we kicked them out the first time and beat them a second time. And at that point, they just, I guess, stopped trying. So now they're where they're at now. So
was this the Boston Tea Party? They had enough of taxes?
That was before the even revolution. That's going even farther back.
Okay. We could do a history podcast some other time. But anyways, yeah.
But okay, so as for the banknotes, as he asked, I don't know why our banknotes are all one size. I don't know why we're a standard size. Again, their banknotes, they have the pounds and the euros. They have $1 or £1 coins, £2 coins, whereas we have $1 bills, and rarely we have $2 bills as well. But yeah, so when I was studying abroad, I actually became preferential to $1 coins and stuff like that. I thought it was easier in the wallet rather than stacking a bunch of $1 bills, and it's probably cheaper in the long run. They last longer.
More painful for strippers, though.
Yeah, it would not
just
be
throwing $1 and $2 coins.
Yeah, it would be much more difficult to clean up that way. It would definitely require more hospital visits. Can you imagine having to go to the emergency room because you got pegged in the eye with
just pelted with coins?
So that way, Um, so for the ladies of the night, it's um, not quite as good. But I do say in Europe they definitely have more colorful money. The money is more fun. But in America we do our own thing, Tony. And you guys had your chance, and you lost. Took that L. So as the kids say.
Yep.
So, but I'm glad you had a good time in the States. I believe he does go on. There's a later question here. He said he was in Florida, which I don't know why you'd come to Florida. I mean, hopefully he went to other places. He did. I do think he went to Disney though, so props for that. But I'm glad he enjoyed it. I believe that's the second of our listeners that's been over within the in this year so far. Was it Edward that was over or during the hockey season? I believe it was Edward.
I think it was Edward. Yeah.
But we will talk. Edward is back this week as well. We have a question from him, and we'll have some more later in the week from Edward. But yeah, glad you made it. Glad you enjoyed your time here, making it over from Britain, where it rains all the time, to the state where it rains all the time. So yeah.
I think Florida, it's like tropical, but it's also pretty inexpensive, right?
It depends on where you're at, obviously. It varies. Disney's not the place you want to go if you want inexpensive. So
True.
All right. Sticking with Tony for the next question here. Tony says Penguins hit the ice this month. That's a good sign. That is true. How do they line up?
How do they line up? I'll take this two ways, literally and figuratively. I think figuratively, they quite literally, I think they're going to make the play. Again, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think last year I said there's no reason why they shouldn't make it to the second round of the playoffs with the addition of Karlsson. That did not turn out very well. Hopefully no one put money on my take. But this year, up the middle, we got Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Kevin Hayes, Lars Eller slotted at that fourth line center. On the left wing of Sid, we got Drew O'Connor. On his right wing, we got Brian Rust. Left wing, Michael Bunting to Evgeny Malkin. On his right, we got Ricard Raquel, who we're hoping last year was just, he was injured, right? Like he had a shoulder injury, like since this.
We're crossing our fingers, that's for sure.
We're crossing our fingers. He's rehabbed that. He's been diligent about that. He gets back to being a, 25 goal, 60 point type guy. I think what he's that's what he can be on a good team. Anthony Beauvillier will be flanking Kevin Hayes, and on the other side, Valtteri Puustinen. That's the line where I think that there could be some movement, change in and out there. Anthony Beauvillier, when he was with the Islanders, he was a pretty good forward, pretty good, middle six guy, could score goals, speed. Valtteri Puustinen, I think we all as Penguins fans tend to look at him through the eyes of Penguins fans. We love the little guy. He just seems like he puts his heart out there all the time. He's got a wicked shot. I think he had 4 goals last year. I don't know if you want a third line. And defensively, I'm not too sure about his defensive metrics, but that third line is so pivotal, especially when you get later into the season. They need to be able to check. They need to be able to back check. They need to be able to score goals and chip in offensively. Valtteri Puustinen, much as I love him, and Anthony Beauvillier, we'll see how the season goes, but I could see them being maybe not there. Anthony Beauvillier, you never know with a guy like him. He could end up higher in the lineup depending on his performance. Valtteri Puustinen, he could be a mainstay, or he could be up in the presser a little bit more. I think that third line is where you might see our guy McGroarty get a shot potentially if he cracks the opening night lineup, and then flanking Lars Eller, Blake Lizotte, and Noel Acciari. I'm pretty solid with that on the fourth line. I don't mind that as a fourth line. Blake Lizotte's a buzzsaw, kind of like a Brandon Tanev. Lars Eller and Noel Acciari are actually pretty good down low, good at hanging on to pucks. They can check. They're defensively sound as long as Noel Acciari's healthy, which he tends to not be. But cross your fingers again that I think that's a pretty okay lineup. I think when you got some youth in there, I forget, we also got Cody Glass coming in. I could see him getting a look in the middle six. Middle six, bottom six. I could see him slotted in there. And then on D, the projected lineup here has the two Swedes together, Marcus Pettersson and Erik Karlsson. Ryan Graves here listed, slotted as the second option there on the left side, next to Chris Letang. And then I like this bottom pairing of Matt Grzelcyk and Jack St. Ivany. Jack St. Ivany has really proved to be a stalwart on the back end. He has a physical element to him, stay-at-home guy, maybe kind of like a right shot Brian Dumoulin in earlier in his career. And then Matt Grzelcyk's a undersized defenseman who can really move the puck. So I like the balance throughout the D. And then, of course, we have the goaltending, which is such a, crapshoot, I think, this year with Tristan Jarry and Ned. Who knows who gets the... I would not be shocked if Ned gets opening night start. Would you?
Welcome to Camp Sweet, where you can level up your s'mores by using Nature Valley chocolate crunchy dipped granola squares. It's a perfect hack for a memorable family bonfire. Nature Valley.
Blinds.com's Labor Day mega sale is taking the labor out of shopping for new custom window treatments. Blinds.com is the better way to shop for custom blinds, shutters, and shades. 100% online with upfront pricing and free shipping. And Blinds.com has covered over 25 million windows, all backed by their 100% satisfaction guarantee. Shop Blinds.com's Labor Day mega sale now for up to 50% off, plus premium doorbusters. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Buffalo Trace Distillery. Powerful yet smooth. Contained but never tame. Proudly going their own way, but never going alone. This is the spirit inside Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Made at Buffalo Trace Distillery, the world's most award-winning distillery. Buffalo Trace is always perfectly untamed. Distilled, aged, and bottled by Buffalo Trace Distillery, Franklin County, Kentucky. 90 proof, 45% alcohol by volume. Learn more at buffalotracedistillery.com. Please drink responsibly.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
I would actually.
You would be shocked?
I think I would be shocked because I think they still want Jarry to be the guy. 'Cause, I mean, again, we talked about the end of last season, how that final game where, man alive, you had a goalie that was basically dead in a game that meant nothing, and you still didn't get Tristan Jarry in that game. Imagine if they opened this season. Now, again, the first 2 games are back-to-back, but I still think Jarry gets that start on opening night against the Rangers.
I think it's going to be Ned. I think they're going to give it to Ned, and I think Jarry is going to be wearing the ball cap to start the season. If Ned flounders, they're going to switch off, obviously. What if they just did Ned back to back to start the season?
Oh my gosh! then I'd almost think that they have a trade in the works for Jarry.
They have a trade, or he's just injured or something. Like there's something up there. But the goaltending is still I think out of everything with this team, it's the goaltending that's the biggest question. I think that the power play, I have faith that the power play thing was just someone had a voodoo doll. Giroux had a voodoo doll of the Penguins or something. Like there was some weird trickery afoot with the power play last year. I just don't think that could statistically happen again. I think that they're making Reardon's out like we were all begging for. Sullivan's looks like his half brother's going to be running the power play, the former coach of the San Jose Sharks. I think that this team is going to be better, Robbie. I think they're going to be better.
I have hope. I do have hope. I did not have as much hope in June and July, but maybe it's just simply the McGroarty trade. It can't be just that, but I do have hope.
I think that McGroarty trade really sparked some hope in us. It's like, hey, we got a blue chipper. This kid he doesn't have the stink of the last Penguin season on him. He could come in with some fresh juju and kind of ignite the fan base, probably get some of the veterans playing a little bit more buttoned up, trying to make his life a little bit easier out there. And then you never know. We all know what that injection of youth into a veteran lineup can do, not even just with the Penguins, but in sports in general. So Robbie, he asked how do the Penguins line up? We quite literally went over how they line up. Where are you at with this team on September 3rd?
I can't disagree too much with what you said. There are only so many options. I'm really interested to watch the bottom 6 race and the third pairing competitions because I think a lot of it's already set in stone. Obviously, injuries can change some of that, but yeah, I think for the most part, it's pretty. There's definitely some battles in camp to watch, but I think for a good bit of it, it's set in stone and ready to roll. Obviously, injuries aside.
Fair. Yeah, I'm excited for that race too. I'm excited to see how things shape up during camp. I can't wait to get there. All right. We will move on from that to another question from Tony Gale, and he says, given the success of the Panthers this season, I saw very little Panthers merchandise when shopping. From the outside looking in, hockey seems bigger in the northern states than the southern.
So the second part is absolutely true. Hockey is a northern sport, obviously ice, cold. That is the traditional markets up north. Florida is absolutely a non-traditional market. Both Florida teams are, in terms of the NHL, still very young franchises. Both have Stanley Cups now, which is great. I don't go to Florida very often. I haven't been down there in quite a while, about 10 years. So I can't say the attraction of either the widespread attraction of either franchise. I know they both have dedicated fan bases in their locales. Tampa and Florida, Tampa and Miami area, more specifically. Now, my guess is because of the earlier success, Tampa might have a greater reach fan wise than the Panthers do. But I think you saw in the playoffs this year that the Panthers certainly have a very passionate fan base, which is amazing. It's great. I'm glad they got their cup. They now have the target on their back, obviously. As of outside of Florida, I can't imagine. Now, I can see, again, Georgia, your southern states that don't really have a team, your Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. There's probably some pull there, though I'm not exactly sure how popular hockey is in those states altogether. Now, when you get up into the Carolinas and Tennessee, Kentucky, you get some more Carolina fans, Nashville fans, but up north is the money area for hockey. Your Boston's, your
specifically
Phillies,
the Northeast.
Yes, your New England area, specifically your anywhere in Canada. Really, hockey's obviously massive, but your Boston's, your New York, your Pittsburgh, Philly, DC. Those are all. I mean, these are teams that have been around. They were either original 6 teams or they came in the 60s or 70s. So all very passionate fan bases. Hockey is a northern sport. That's just how it is. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, all those states have big hockey pools. So yeah, I mean, I can't say what the popularity of the Panthers and Lightning, those teams are outside of the Florida, the South, the immediate Southeast. But I'd imagine that in those concentrated areas, they'd be very popular. All right. Switching over to, we're sticking with Tony here. Tony said he was wearing my Penguins gear proudly around Disney and came across a few fans. Not surprising. Pittsburgh fans are everywhere. Everyone seems optimistic about the upcoming season. The Penguins getting back to their winning ways and making playoff hockey again. Is that the same with fans where you are? No, you can't really talk to that. I mean, there's how many Penguins fans are out?
I'm sure there's some of them, but I've never really ran in. It's always at the Kraken games that I go to wearing Pittsburgh stuff that I end up having the coolest conversations with people.
Yeah, I believe that.
It's funny, people out here hockey hasn't caught on here culturally yet. It's just I don't think anyone talks about the Kraken. So out here, if I wanted to talk Kraken with people, it would They probably don't even realize that they just acquired Brandon Montour this offseason, which in Pittsburgh would be earth-shattering news.
Yeah.
You could talk about it at the water cooler at work. Here, I don't think anybody, they're like, oh, Brandon Montour, cool. Like, the second they maybe see the news, and they probably don't even know he's a defenseman who just won the Stanley Cup. So, yeah, that's how are things out Pittsburgh way?
I mean, from my point of view, I'm obviously very excited. I think we've talked about this kind of like, this is kind of the, I'm trying to think how to say it exactly. This is like the, a new beginning kind of. The Penguins ended last season not great. We were frustrated, but it seems like they're finally starting to come back around. They made some moves this offseason. The McGroarty move, as we talked about on the podcast, was something that re-energized some people. What he exactly brings is TBD, to be determined. But this time of year, there was always renewed excitement because it's September. It feels like hockey. The Penguins are close. I think what would really get the talk going would be an announcement of a Crosby extension. I definitely think that would get hype going again. But overall, I think it's just there's cautious optimism is probably the best way to go, mostly because how the last few seasons went. That's kind of where I think most people are at.
Yep, I'm sure it's. I'm sure that McGroarty signing though has sparked a little bit of life.
Absolutely.
In optimism.
Yep.
Speaking of McGroarty, question here from Brian. He says here, the biggest concern I see people say about McGroarty is his skating. What can he do to improve that, Robbie?
You got to get him with a pro level skating coach. That's really, I think, the only thing you can really do. Skating doesn't necessarily fix itself overnight, if at all. I'm sure he can improve. Not that he'll ever be the world's best skater, but he gets compared to Patrick Hornquist, and I would say Patrick Hornquist wasn't ever the best skater when he was on the ice either. So there's ways that he can make up for his skating with his other skills. But you get him in the Penguin system, you get him with a pro skating coach, you get him with the skills coach, and that's stuff you work on. Whether that is at the NHL level this year or a little time in the AHL, we will see. But really just getting him with the proper coaching to work on that and to refine it as much as possible. Not everybody's going to be able to skate like Crosby or McDavid. That's not really the goal. It's just being able to get that speed up, get his footwork a little bit better, because I think he can compensate a lot with his hockey sense and hockey skills to make up for what he lacks in skating. All right. Sticking with Brian here, and he asked pretty simply, when is Snail thinking of visiting? And I'm assuming by that he means Pittsburgh.
Visiting Pittsburgh. So I haven't bought a ticket yet or anything, but I did have aspirations of trying to get out there. This fall was my goal. I at this point right now, I need to see how busy I am come end of summer here, come end of beginning of fall or so. If I have a lull in my schedule, I do want to get out there for a home game. That is tentatively my goal. I don't know if that would be in mid-October, late October, or early November, but I want to be in the East Coast in the fall. So that is my tentative plan. How's Halloween out there in Pittsburgh? Does the city get popping for a Halloween?
I really can't say. I've never really been in the city during Halloween.
Oh yeah, you live in Johnstown.
I don't. Yeah, I'm sure there's colleges around, so I'm sure there are events, but nothing that I've ever really partaken in. So how
does Johnstown get down with Halloween? Do you guys decorate?
Oh yeah, there's lots of decorations. We love fall. I mean, fall is a huge part of the area because of where we live. We get the foliage, and all that fun stuff. But
it won't be muggy, right?
It should be. Not you can't have a day where storms roll through, but especially by November, that mugginess is pretty much cleared up for the most part.
So yeah, I actually sent Robbie a silly video of these guys. They had a keg at their at their dinner table, and they would just keep the keg running, like the little nozzle going, and they just would put their beer in and then take the beer out, and the other guy would put his empty glass in, and then he'd drink his beer, and they were just going beer for beer like that for like 45 seconds, the video was. So I jokingly said that was going to be me and Robbie upon my arrival into the Pittsburgh area. So I will keep everyone posted when I'm looking at flights, when I'm looking at landing over there. So I'll let you know too, Brian. We all got to get together and have beers and give Garrett noogies.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see. Edward Beckham back in the fold for a question here. Robbie, did you enjoy the United Liverpool game? I'm assuming that's footy.
It is footy, and Edward, I did not. Thank you for bringing that up.
What's the United Liverpool game?
It was two Premier League teams. My favorite team, Manchester United. Liverpool's their biggest rival, and United got stuffed in a box for 90 minutes. So, yeah, I did not enjoy it, Edward, but thank you for bringing that up. I am going to memory hole that for the future. Remember that you asked me that. So, yeah, thank you for that, Edward. Very cool. All right, and wrapping up this week's episode is Brian. Follow-up to Kim's question last week. Brian was at the 2011 Winter Classic, and my tickets were in a mostly Capitals section. When Sid got hit, I almost lost it on a few Caps fans who were calling Sid a faker. If it wasn't for my brother calling me down, I might have thrown down. It's very funny.
That is hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. It is frustrating. It's frustrating. I've gotten that even here before. I was watching a game at there's one hockey bar in the entire state of Washington, and I was there watching the Penguins play the Rangers, where I thought they should have taken that series, except for Trouba's a piece of shit. And some dudes just keeps saying, what do they call it? Cindy Crosby, Crybaby Crosby.
Yeah,
they just could. He's like, I can't see how you can cheer for a guy like that. And I'm just like, oh, what? Like one of the most humble superstars in the world, one of the best work ethics, one of the coolest guys to watch play hockey. You don't see as a New Yorker how that's cool. I guess you haven't won many cups since '94, and before that it was 60-something years. So smell you later. I get the frustration. People hate greatness. People hate. They probably wish he was if he disappeared in the playoffs more and was just worse, maybe they'd like him. So I get it. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I remember I was there that night, and from where I was sitting, you couldn't quite tell what happened exactly. But looking back now, yeah, I've sat in games like at PPG Paints Arena around opposing fans, and most of my experiences have been nothing but good. Very chill, very just generous and kind, and happy to be there just to watch hockey. You always get the occasional idiot that wants to cause trouble, wants to stir up something, but for the most part, people are chill and cool and stuff. So that's my experience mostly.
Who's out of the Rangers, the Flyers, and the Capitals, who has the worst fans?
Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, probably the Capitals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they always get so stuck on the Ovechkin's better than Crosby thing.
Oh, that's insufferable.
And they got very, very frustrated those years. The Penguins knocked them out of the playoffs when they were like, it was finally their year. In 2016 and 2017, they were always, again, most of my interactions are fine, but there's all like, if you're picking the worst, they were very smug. Flyers fans kind of went through that lull of like, yeah, we're not good. The Penguins are just better than us. If we beat you, yeah, we're just going to enjoy it kind of thing. But Capitals fans were probably the smuggest of the bunch because they had, and it was great beating them. Like beating them was absolutely fantastic. Awesome. Other than that, I'm trying to think of like other, I don't think I've Boston fans. I met a Boston fan one time. I saw, that was just a regular season game. Just very obnoxious Boston person.
People from Boston are just, they have that in their DNA.
Yeah, he was just very obnoxious. yeah, like I said, 90%, 99% of the fan interactions I have with opposing fans are good, but the ones that stick out are always the jerks and the ones that you don't want to be around. Yeah, it's great when you go to a team that's like not very good. They're just there to watch their team, and I'm sure like it's great when like if you'd be a Pittsburgh transplant living in Dallas or Nashville or something, you get to see your team once a year unless you get home for a holiday or something like that. So for the most part, people were just there to enjoy it. Like if there's a New York transplant living in Pittsburgh, he really just wants to see his team, cheer on his team, not cause any problems. But you always get, I feel like the bozos are the ones that travel from out of town for the game rather than the ones that are just there, like live in Pittsburgh and just want to see their team once or twice a year. It's definitely the traveling people that I think cause more of an issue than the others.
Yeah, I would agree. I remember the first time the Penguins played the Kraken here in Seattle. Not that many Penguins fans. Also, probably equally not as many Kraken fans. Just a lot of people there to see the game.
I could see that.
Maybe see Sid. The last game that I went to this last season, I mean, tons of Penguins fans. The jersey ratio was actually, it was 60-40, like 60 Kraken, 40 Penguins, which was cool. I actually had a cool chat with a gentleman who was there in a original vintage Ron Francis jersey. And, you know, a Kraken fan probably wouldn't even know, like, they'd be like, oh, he's the GM of the Kraken, that's cool. But it's like, he actually won a cup with Pittsburgh. Two cups with Pittsburgh. And he was, you know, their number one center at one point. He played there for a while. So, and I talked with him. I was like, "Is that are you a Seattle fan or Penguins?" He's like, "I love the Penguins." He was like, "Ron Francis, I loved watching it." He started naming off all these things about him. I was like, "That's awesome." I wore my Kessel jersey the last game too, and this super drunk from Pittsburgh, like she had this like Pittsburgh accent. She was just like, "Oh my God, Phil Kessel jersey, he was so awesome." I was like, yeah. It's just I love going to Penguins games here because one, I think people from Pittsburgh might just be like pretty good people, like the transplants that I've met, compared to like a Boston or a New York, pretty low key, maybe more of a blue collar, level headed type. They just like their beers and cheer on Sid. But yeah, it's God, I'm getting excited, man. I think tickets might be on sale already. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm so excited to watch some Penguins hockey back here in Seattle and just rub it in their faces when we score. It's one of the best feelings. I love hearing I love when the Penguins score and half the crowd erupts. Like pro Penguin goal. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, it's I love watching. I've never been to a Penguins game on the road. I'd like to.
Oh, you haven't?
Nah, never been to a Penguins game on the road.
Oh, dang. I figured you would have just to take in the sights because you're so close to like Columbus and you're close to like.
I'm close to DC, Philly,
Carolina.
Carolina's like 8 hours. That's not.
Okay, that's pretty. That's pretty far.
7 depending on traffic. Philly's only 4. New York. And Boston's more than a day trip too. Well, again, Philly and all of them are more than a day trip too. But I have a friend that lives in Philly now, so I might try to sneak down there for a game, depending on when they play. See a game, so
that'd be cool. I'm surprised you haven't been to. I figured you and Garrett would have.
No,
because things are not so spread out there on the East Coast.
No, the only game I've seen in away arena, I was in Nashville.
Oh, that's right.
And I saw the Sharks and Predators play.
Oh, you didn't even see the Penguins?
No, I saw it was during 2016. The Sharks and Predators
Western Conference
Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals. The Predators won in overtime.
Wow, cool.
Yep. Predators and Sharks, and I was there wearing a Penguins hat. That was a great experience too. Very cool environment, and it's much different watching a game as a completely neutral fan. So.
Yeah, that is interesting. I've done that too. I actually was at the Kraken game where they played the Habs and Shane Wright scored his first NHL goal. Okay. All right. So that was interesting to be at. But yeah, I think I could talk games and hockey experiences all day, but that wraps up our questions. But before we wrap up the podcast, Robbie, I sent over to you a screenshot of depth players that are still free agents, and this was as of October 31st. Now, it's quite a lengthy list. Some names on here I'm not as surprised. Some names I'm surprised to see these guys are still floating around without a contract. I'm going to read off some of these guys here, and I want you, Robbie, to tell me, if you're Kyle Dubas, who are you picking up the phone and calling, if anybody? We're talking...
they have no room for anybody. That's the problem.
Well, they could make room. Is there anybody on here you would take over somebody that's already on the roster? We're looking at James Van Riemsdyk, Blake Wheeler, Justin Schultz, Kevin Shattenkirk, Mike Hoffman, Mac Pacioretty, Kyle Okposo, Cal Clutterbuck, Kalen Addison, Kaylor Yamamoto, Tyson Berry, Dominic Kubalik, Boris Kachuk, Tony DeAngelo, Chris Tierney, Alex Goligoski, former Penguin Sam Garnier, Kevin LeBanc, Mark Giordano, Marco Scandella, Matt Martin, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, the Frenchman, John Klingberg, Travis Dermott, Mark Stahl, brother of Eric Stahl, brother of Jordan Stahl, Nick Bonino, former two-time Cup champion, Martin Jones, Antti Ranta, and Kevin Lankinen.
I can't believe, given the way Kyle Dubas operates, we don't have at least a PDO for Travis Dermott.
Dude, true.
Just the way he acted, just the way he...
Totally.
Yeah, Travis Dermott, I'm surprised we don't have a PTO with him yet. The only one that really sticks out is I wonder how much tread is left on the wheels for JVR.
He's got miles.
That's the thing. Yeah, I just don't know what... Again, Tony DeAngelo, something's going on there.
He's too good, but I think he's a horrible person. I don't know, but I've heard he might be a horrible person.
Does Antti Ranta have anything left in the tank? I don't know. I think Okposo is going to end up retiring in the end.
It's a great way to go out. I don't think anyone would blame it. What about... Yeah, hear me out here. What about Matt Martin?
I don't know where he goes in the lineup. I don't even know if he can skate anymore.
Yeah, but he's actually kind of a playoff performer. He won't get you to the playoffs though. He can fight, which is what I kind of want. With this young McGroarty coming in, you need someone to keep the flies off. George Larocque was here for Sid. I think they should sniff around on Matt Martin and just tell him you're going to be Kyle Clifford for the Leafs. You're going to be in and out of the lineup quite a bit. You're going in as our last forward, and you keep the flies off everybody.
I mean, in that situation, I guess you could make that work. They're so tight up against the with the roster spots right now. I just don't know.
Dude, Justin Schultz kind of surprises me that he hasn't been picked up by anybody. Puck moving, right shot D-man. Like Tyson Berry just got a PTO. I guess it's riding on the wall for Justin. If it took that much for Tyson Berry to get a PTO, it'd be a shame to see Schultz out of the league. Same with Kevin Shattenkirk.
Might all just come down to what's left on the tires. Again, some of these guys, I just don't know what's left.
Dominic Kubalik was a pretty good player in Chicago.
Yeah, Kubalik had a pretty decent career. I'm surprised he's still available as well.
Blake Wheeler?
No, Wheeler had nothing left last year. Barely got in the playoffs.
Broke his leg too. I forgot about that.
Don't think he's got much left in the tank either.
Is there? I mean, dude, for goalie depth, Martin Jones is a good goalie. Even
I think I'd rather take a shot at Ranta.
Really?
But, yeah. But that's about.
Did the Penguins have Antti Niemi one year?
For like 2 weeks, and he was just absolutely.
He was horrible, right?
Absolutely dreadful. I can't remember what year that was, but he backed up.
Flower.
He would have to have backed up. He might have backed up Murray. It might have been right after. It might have been 2018 or 2019. Oh, I can look it up. But he was. I think the first game he played.
It almost feels like a fever dream thinking of Niemi in a Penguins jersey because it was. I remember if it was true. I couldn't remember if it was either I did that on NHL one year, Chell, and acquired him, or if it was in real life. But I think he was absolute trash.
2017, 2018. So it was after Fleury left. He played 3 games for the Penguins. He was 0 for 3. He gave up 16 goals in 3 games. He had a save percentage of .797 and a goals against average of 749.
Was that curtains for him in the league after that?
He played for Florida and Montreal that year, and then he played 2018, 2019. He played in 17 games for the Canadians in 2018, 2019, and then that was his career.
Well, sounds like he went out on a bit of a higher note than he would have in Pittsburgh.
Was so bad. Like, he was so bad in Pittsburgh. Let me see if I can pull up his game log here real quick, because I just remember him playing. He played against. Yeah, his debut was against Chicago. He gave up
Did
4
they line
goals.
him up?
He gave
Didn't
up
he
4
win
goals.
a cup as in Chicago?
Yes, but he gave up 4 goals on 13 shots.
Oof.
Against the Blackhawks, and then he gave up 5 goals on 34 shots, and then his final appearance was against. They played Tampa Bay twice within like a week, and he gave up. So against Tampa Bay, he gave up 12 goals on 66 shots.
That's like that's our street hockey league goalie numbers.
Basically, yeah. That was his time in Pittsburgh was short-lived. I can't even remember who they brought in after that, but it was not good. Yeah, he was the Flower replacement, and it went about as poorly as imagined.
So it's safe to say maybe out of all those free agents that I had listed, the most we'd be willing to take peeks at, and peak is a strong word, maybe Antti Raanta or Martin Jones for goalie depth.
Yes.
Wasn't Kalen Addison a Penguins prospect for quite a while?
Yeah, he was traded in the Jason Zucker trade.
What happened with him?
He just never really developed. He just never became
true. Oh, he's had quite a look too. He's played 152 NHL games, and he is. I don't see him making the Penguins lineup over anybody else. JVR, I'd consider if he would take the absolute league minimum two-way contract.
Yeah.
JVR maybe. I think we talked about Max Pacioretty. I don't think that dude. Can his Achilles hold up?
He's so banged up. I don't know if he has anything left.
Kevin Labanc. A lot of people compared him to like Chris Kunitz.
At one time, maybe.
Yeah, he was Joe Thornton's Chris Kunitz, and Joe Thornton was like 45. Okay, yeah. Alex Goligoski, former Penguin. He's probably we have such a backlog of defensemen. Martin Jones, Antti Raanta. I'd pick up the phone and call Matty Martin, and maybe invite James Van Riemsdyk to camp on a PTO.
All right, that's fair.
Well, Robbie, this is getting me hyped up. I need to go adjust my Chell roster and adjust accordingly. So, you got anything else you wanted to touch on?
I got nothing.
I've got nothing as well, so why don't you take us out?
All right. Oh, you're breaking up.
I was done. I just said, why don't you take us out?
All right. So, for Snail, I am Robbie. We will talk to you guys later this week with another episode. We have more Mailbag questions to go through. So until then, take it easy, be safe. We'll talk to you guys